Welcome back to the fifth video in the Steel Beast Tank Platoon Tactics video series. In this scenario, we're going to be focusing on movement techniques, and once again, we find ourselves at Camp Hornfeld. As before, you can go ahead and pause the briefing and read this. I'll go ahead and scroll down so you got the rest of it there. Okay, we'll go ahead and go to the terrain. So I've gone ahead and pre-done a plan up here so that we can begin a little bit quicker. So essentially, the idea is that we take our tank platoon and we seize Objective Kermit. Now, in between us and Objective Kermit are, of course, an indeterminate number of enemy forces patrolling throughout the AO. Now, up to phase line Ernie, enemy contact is unlikely. Between Ernie and Bert, enemy contact is possible. And from Bert onwards, enemy contact is likely. So we'll alternate between the traveling Overwatch as well as the bounding Overwatch movement formations. Now, for traveling, that's going to be up to phase line Ernie, where, as before, we're going to conduct a tactical road march on the road at top speed and sacrifice security for speed in order to maneuver into position as quickly as possible. Once there, we're going to spread out in a wedge formation. I say spread out. In reality, we will be at close interval based on the terrain here. Again, we don't want our tanks to drift into the wood line and slow our movement down. We'll be in an engaged formation, meaning that as we maneuver through this corridor here, in the event that we are attacked by the enemy, we'll halt our movement, assume a hasty battle position, destroy them in place, and then continue. Now, at this point, I'm going to maneuver past phase line Bert, conduct a quick tactical road march up here and attempt to get a flanking position on any possible enemy located within this area here. Now, as you'll notice, I've got some reference points on the map. These are named Alpha Bravo 0005 through 0040. Now, traditionally, these are used to mark positions where you can call indirect fire. And once in the scenario, as I prepare fire missions, I'll show you how that's done and how it can definitely simplify the process. So we'll go ahead and begin. And as before, our tanks are moving, so I'm going to go ahead and start preparing fire missions. Now, in this case, as you can see here, as opposed to going to the map, right-clicking and selecting new artillery call, which I can still do, and it's located on the map, I can instead select specific areas and prep those locations since they're already pre-selected and everything of that nature. So I'm going to go ahead and prep this one with HE and 1-0 with ICM. I see that as a possible battle position where the enemy may employ tanks. And for all of these, I'm going to put them at my call, at my command, I should say, so that once I'm ready to call for the indirect fire, it's already laid on and there's a minimum amount of time between when it impacts and when I call for it. At 0015, I'm going to do a smoke fire mission, again at my command. The purpose is, while I'm maneuvering through here, force the enemy here to displace south, if they're in that position, and then block observation from south to north while I maneuver through here and have my back turned towards potential enemy locations. Alright, so we've reached the point where we have transitioned into a wedge formation, and we're going to maneuver through this corridor. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick scan to see if we can identify any obvious signs of the enemy. Again, in many cases, you'll have contact with the enemy through plumes of smoke as they're kicking up dust during their movement, rather than seeing their silhouette perfectly in the thermals. Obviously, in the event that you do, that's ideal, but that's not always the case. Okay, so we've located an enemy mechanized infantry platoon. I've given the command to establish a hasty battle position with the E key. And my platoon has established quick fighting position in a line oriented towards the enemy's locations. And we've got some of our wingmen engaging enemies, which we cannot currently observe. take it slightly towards the west and continue rolling at a slow rate of march. It's either the 3 or the 4 tank, actually both in this case, firing a considerable amount of ammunition at the enemy PC, which obviously was destroyed with that hit, so that is good. So we're definitely going to need to stop and execute a reload. Looks like there may be another target. Yep, there it is. And he is starting to engage with his main cannon, but we'll go ahead and engage, and that's a kill. So destroy the enemy in vicinity of Alpha Bravo 0005. So as we continue forward, actually tell you what, I'm going to go and halt at this location, and we're going to conduct a quick reload at the platoon level while we call in indirect fire, so that in the event that the enemy has any other assets within that area, they'll be destroyed.
Roger.
Alright, so that portion is complete, that fire mission is over, and we can safely end the mission and continue on as soon as the rest of our platoon has finished reloading. Now, the Abrams, generally the turrets stay still while they're reloading, so as soon as they start scanning again, you'll know that the reloading process is completed. And I don't really want to go all the way back there, so I'm going to override our original route. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and call a fire mission on Alpha Bravo 0010 as we maneuver forward. And that will cause any enemy tanks in that location to displace. Alright, I'll start moving forward slowly while the fire mission is still active. Obviously, I don't want to drive into the DPICM and have those effects occur on our tanks, but try to get closer. I think there may be a few more rounds going off, but that should be largely it. Should be going complete in a few moments. Alright, fire mission is complete. So we've ended that mission, and once we get right up to about here, towards the end of this vegetation, we're going to transition into a line and then proceed forward so that we're able to project all of our firepower towards the front where we suspect the enemy may be located. And actually, based on the terrain, I want to do that prior to cresting this hill. So we're going to execute movement into a line. And we're going to activate Alpha Bravo 0015. So in 40 seconds approximately, we'll have smoke effects located to our south, which will create the effect of obscuration and prevent the enemy from being able to observe us as we move through the corridor. And of course, with our other tanks moving through the woods, this slows our movement rate considerably. Uh-oh. Enemy tank. Come on, get it.
Gunner, stable tank. Ceasefire.
Okay, so where there is one, there is definitely more. So, see if I can back up and continue to scan here. That looked like a T90. I don't know if that was either a T90 or a T80. I can't really tell from this angle. But you can tell the effects of our smoke are billowing to the south, which is good. Now, I can't tell if that tank was hit by ICM and tracked, or what the issue is. But if there's, of course, one enemy tank in the vicinity, there's always more. So I want to be very careful while cresting. Actually, I think I see the other one. Yep, there they are. If I can get my sight back on it. We're going to call that one out.
Battle site tank.
Yep, right there. Our commander can see it, but currently we're not in a position where our gunner is able to observe. And we just lost one tank. That's a hit, not a good one though. This is unnerving. And I think that's our other tank. Yep. Now, of course, maneuvering through the woods, conducting a fight with enemy tanks is not necessarily a great thing to do. I mean, obviously you have to, but it's not, can be a pretty, nerve-wracking experience. Alright, I got it.
Ceasefire.
So, unfortunately, we lost one tank in that engagement, but managed to destroy an enemy tank platoon. Not that I know if that was necessarily worth it, but it is what it is. I'm going to do a... I think we're good with smoke. I'm going to end that fire mission and call on Alpha Bravo 0020. Make sure our spacing is set to close. And I'll occupy the commander's position as we maneuver through here. Okay, those are some pretty good effects. And of course our smart thing with AI here is when they do see that an area is under the effects of indirect fire, they will halt and wait for that to end prior to continuing. We're going to remain in a wedge formation as we move forward, clearing through this area before maneuvering through a quick mobility corridor and begin the advance on our objective. Okay, so I'm going to accept a little bit of risk, conduct a tactical march through here in a column formation to give us a little bit more speed. And what I additionally want to do here is call for indirect fire on Alpha Bravo 0025, so that if the enemy is in fact using that as a battle position, we can force them to displace. And we will be getting effects in 8 seconds. Right here, we're going to transition from a column into a line formation.
First left.
And of course, this is going to force the enemy to displace. There they are. Alright. See if we can hit him before he gets us. Ah, man, he's flying. There we go. That's a good hit.
Ceasefire.
Okay, one more enemy tank.
Fire. Target. Ceasefire.
Okay, so unfortunately that tank managed to disable one of our vehicles. Let's see specifically what he managed to do. Yeah, that tank's basically done. So, I don't know if we're actually going to have the combat power to be able to finish this mission, but we'll go ahead and give it a go and see what happens. Let me go back through the briefing here while we're conducting a reload. Okay, yeah. So we can get one of our vehicles onto Objective Kermit as long as we do not lose 2 vehicles. So in this case, we're basically down to a section of tanks, and we're going to continue. So I think I mentioned previously that this is the hardest mission in the entirety of the Camp Hornfeld series, and I think that you may be able to see why. It is very unforgiving, is the word I would certainly use. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and set our forces to go and engage. Actually, as we move forward, I'm going to do a quick scan down in this region, see if we can find any possible enemy tanks as we're moving through. Oh boy, yep, there they are. Let's get them. And that was low. That was a hit, kind of low, still moving. Try again. And that was a hit. That looks like 4-0, so I'm going to call Indirect Fire on that position. Yep, enemy is still active. That's a 3rd hit. Enemy still active. And that is definitely a kill. Okay, I think I saw another enemy vehicle maneuvering through the wood line there. We're going to, yep, right through that area there. So we're going to call in Indirect Fire and attempt to flush them out of that position and engage them as they conduct a survivability move. Switch the commander's position so the gunner can engage. And I'm going to go ahead and call for indirect on all of these positions here, since at this point our hand's forced and we're really going to have to move forward and conduct an attack onto the objective itself. There he is. That was a hit. I don't know if that was a kill. Yep, kill. There is one more enemy tank within that area. So we're going to continue this game of cat and mouse, as it were. There we go. Hello. Alright, that's a hit. Okay, another hit. That's a kill. Now I can't tell at this point if that was all part of that platoon, though I seriously doubt it. And we're getting actually pretty low on AP rounds with our first tank, so as much as I really don't want to at this point, we're gonna conduct a retreat to the top of this hill. I'm gonna conduct a reload on the one tank here to get my remaining Sabo rounds up, and we've got 6 rounds here, and I think my 3-track's doing a little bit better. Feel a lot more confident if we didn't take so many combat losses up until this point, but it's kind of the nature of the beast with this scenario.
Roger.
Alright, so we'll conduct a reload. It's very important too when you're engaging the enemy and you have a pretty good idea that they've determined your location to move out of the way to avoid any indirect fire that the enemy might send your way. If we just sat there, the enemy could potentially call a fire mission directly on us, and it's entirely avoidable by just simply moving. Alright, so all these fire missions are complete, but we're going to do a repeat on all of these. Try to get some more effects on the target itself. I'm going to additionally start saturating this area here with more ICM once those fire missions are concluded. There's the potential for a significant enemy force in the vicinity of Objective Kermit, and we've got about 30 minutes remaining. It takes about 2 minutes or so, 2 minutes and 30 to 40 seconds to call in a fire mission, so that's something that I am definitely willing to accept in this case. We've got our fire missions, of course, conducting, well, splashing at this time. See if we can force the enemy to conduct any more movement out of their hasty battle positions and into somewhere else. So we're continuing on towards Objective Kermit. I'm going to try to use some of the terrain here to our advantage if possible. I think that was that enemy tank that we engaged previously. Objective Kermit is directly to our front. The tension is killing me right now.
Reverse right.
Alright, so we're moving into position here. This is pretty unnerving. I think that's that enemy tank that we killed earlier. Yep. So, got an enemy platoon that we destroyed in that position. Oh boy. There they are. Damn. Okay, move into position and fire, hopefully before he reloads. Oh, well, mission ended, so we got into position, but alright, that is a interesting way to end it. So, as you can tell, this mission is very difficult, hence why I recommended waiting a little bit prior to executing this, as far as conducting initial training on how to lead a tank platoon. So we'll go ahead and start at the very beginning, see where the enemy was located, and they spawned in, engaged the enemy in vicinity of phase line vert, killed them, had an enemy, two enemy platoons actually come up behind us, but we were able to avoid that, move through. I'm actually curious if that disabled that tank or if they were simply in position. Nope, so they were hit by indirect fire. But that was not the one I engaged there. That's interesting. But yeah, carrying on. Enemy moved forward from that position. We were able to engage them from the rear. They're able to get a very lucky hit on one of our tanks there. Let's see. Okay, yeah, so absolutely a 100% deadly shot, which I think if we had actual player tanks, they probably wouldn't have made a maneuver error like that, but they're attempting to basically move into position right there and then face forward. And as they're moving there to avoid the trees, they of course took a sabot round from that enemy T-80. Carrying on, move forward, called for indirect, did not really have any effects. Enemy BMP platoon went behind us. We engaged, actually had some pretty good effects with the indirect fire there, forcing the enemy to displace basically to the north out of their battle position. Had some pretty decent effects. Let's see what the enemy did specifically for our... Yeah, and again, just happening to get lucky shots, I would say, on the side armor of our tanks. So it may have been more beneficial if I had been a little bit more cautious there. Told our guys to assume a hasty battle position, then they could have moved forward with their armor facing the enemy tanks and then destroyed them, but that was not to be in this case. So move forward, had enemy tanks that we called for indirect fire on, had actually some pretty good effects, and we did in fact kill that one platoon there with direct fires and forced the enemy to really not effectively remain within their battle positions. They had to continuously move around. So the main things that I hope you took away from this scenario is, one, moving by yourself, even at the tank platoon level, can certainly be very risky and certainly very, let's say, induce a lot of tension. And two, the effects of using indirect fire are definitely not to be underestimated. So if you have any questions, go ahead and leave those in the comments below, and I will see you guys next time.